3. Dark roast or frappuccino? You decide. A child is taught many things by his parents when he's growing up. Of course, this applies to the girls as well. And up to a point until the teenage years, for the most part, a parent can say, don't do this or do this because it will make God happy. And the child would just go right along with it and believe it. However, a certain point in their life, as I mentioned before, which starts in the teenage years, it really becomes important that emphasis on training from infancy had reading involved with it, you see. Why is that the case? Well, as you parents most likely know, they hit the teenage years sometimes, and then all of a sudden you don't know nothing anymore. And especially some of the events or experience of your life, which is very much valid and applicable because it's now you who are the grown up, not just mom or dad anymore, or you may just be old fashioned among other things. Some children all of a sudden, as I said before, do not value what you're saying, maybe for a few moments, and maybe even longer than that, sad to say. However, getting back to the infancy part, the reason why it is so important to have reading of the good book involved with that is because, just like one verse says, you train up a boy according to his way, and he will not depart from it. So, when it gets to the point that, let's say, your child is thinking about following the crowd in this area or that area, and the crowd may not be up to any good with the way that they're actually treating people. You may know this from experience. You can see the writing on the wall, etc., etc. And so, what can you do? You may say, God don't like this. Don't hit anyone. Don't take anything from anyone. Don't steal from anyone. But have your children actually seen God say this for themselves from his word. Right in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 1, it starts, the Lord said to Moses. And you can see he was directing him to speak to the entire assembly there. And so in verse 11 through 13 of Leviticus chapter 19, this is still the true God in the heavens speaking to Moses during that time and his people. And yes, the true God is still very much alive today, and he is saying this to everyone, and this is what we can relate to the children. Remember, with that reading involved in learning in order for them to have embedded principles to what? Train themselves up so that when the difficulties comes in those years, and even when they say, I don't agree with your mom or dad, well, these verses, like in verses 11 through 13, will stick with them. And as they still have their relationship and pray and talk to God, he will remind them of thoughts just like this, words just like this. In Leviticus chapter 9, starting with verse 11, he said, do not steal, do not lie, do not deceive one another. In verse 12, he said, do not swear falsely by my name, and so profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. This is coming from the New International Version. And in verse 13, do not defraud or rob your neighbor. Do not hold back the wages of a hired worker overnight. So there you have it. Do you think the teenager will retain these verses that they have read from infancy, from your good training. Thank you for being here. Have a good day. You have just listened to the Perceptive Readers Podcast. Remember, until next time, if you read something that encourages you to improve or enhance your life for the better, it becomes your reality. So, dark roast or frappuccino? You decide.